Drake is at it again, and this time the internet is buzzing like never before, in a fiery rant that's already gone viral. The rap superstar seemingly took aim at Kendrick, Lamar, and Clipse, reigniting old rivalries and sparking a storm of debate across social media. Fans are calling it bold, controversial, and even shocking, as Drake didn't hold back in making his feelings known. But the drama doesn't stop there. Reports have emerged suggesting he may have been using bots to manipulate engagement, adding another layer of intrigue to an already explosive situation. This is the kind of story that dominates timelines, fuels endless discussion, and keeps the hip-hop community glued to every new development. The rant itself has been dissected frame by frame, with listeners pointing out subtle digs, possible references to past conflicts, and underlying messages aimed squarely at Kendrick and Clipse. Drake's words, delivered with his signature intensity, have fans speculating about beef, retaliation, and what this means for the next round of musical sparring. Every lyric, every phrase, and even his tone are being analyzed for hidden meaning, leaving no detail unnoticed. Meanwhile, the allegations of bot usage have ignited a separate conversation about authenticity in the digital age. Fans and industry insiders are debating whether the engagement on Drake's post reflects genuine hype or if it's been artificially amplified, and what that says about his strategy in this very public feud. Questions about ethics, influence, and public perception are now intertwined with the musical drama, turning this from a simple diss into a complex story about power, control, and reputation in the rap world. Drake's actions have left the community polarized. Some see this as a strategic, calculated move to assert dominance, while others view it as reckless, unnecessary, or even disrespectful to the artists he called out. The tension between loyalty, competition, and showmanship is at an all-time high, and fans are scrambling to interpret what this means for hip-hop culture at large. This isn't just a momentary clash. It's a potential turning point in the ongoing narratives of some of the biggest names in music. The stakes are massive, the reactions are intense, and the world is watching closely. Whether this is the start of a larger feud, a clever publicity move, or a mix of both, one thing is clear. Drake has everyone talking. The questions now are impossible to ignore. What exactly did he mean? Will Kendrick and Clipse respond? And how deep does this drama go? The story is far from over, and the next chapter could change the rap game forever. The tension between Drake and some of hip-hop's biggest names reached a boiling point in a way no one saw coming. It all began with a series of posts, videos, and cryptic comments that Drake shared online. But it wasn't until the rant surfaced that the world realized just how serious the situation had become. In the video, Drake's tone was fiery, intense, and unfiltered, directly addressing grievances that had long simmered beneath the surface. His words seemed aimed at Kendrick Lamar, whose lyrical prowess and respect in the industry have always commanded attention, and Clipse, a duo whose influence in hip-hop is legendary. Every line Drake delivered carried weight, referencing past moments, subtle rivalries, and perceived slights, leaving fans and industry insiders scrambling to interpret the meaning behind every syllable. For Drake, the rant was more than just a verbal jab. It was a statement. He has always been strategic in the way he communicates publicly, but this time, there was a sense of urgency and raw emotion that cut through his usual calculated persona. He spoke of loyalty, respect, and recognition, suggesting that he felt undervalued or underestimated by certain figures in the music world. Lines that appeared casual at first glance were loaded with layered references, hinting at past interactions, competition, and the tension that comes with long-standing rivalries. To fans, it was a masterclass in ambiguity, a dance between confrontation and artistry, leaving everyone questioning. Was this a diss, a warning, or both? Adding fuel to the fire were claims circulating online that Drake may have used bots to amplify engagement on his posts and videos. While the allegations remain unproven, the mere suggestion of artificial amplification sent shockwave through social media. Fans debated whether the hype around the rant was genuine or manufactured, and critics questioned the ethics of such a move. In an industry where perception is everything, the idea that Drake might manipulate digital engagement adds a layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. It's no longer just about lyrics or personal grievances. It's about influence, strategy, and the lengths to which artists will go to maintain dominance. The reactions to Drake's rant were immediate and intense. Fans dissected every word, analyzing subtle references and interpreting possible shots aimed at Kendrick and Clipse. Forums and comment sections exploded with theories, debates, and heated arguments. Some supporters praised Drake's courage, applauding his willingness to speak his mind and assert his position. Others criticized him, suggesting that public calls like these could escalate tensions unnecessarily and invite retaliation. The debate highlighted the delicate balance between artistic expression, personal ego, and public persona in the modern music landscape. Beyond the online reaction, the music industry itself began to take notice. Record labels, producers, and collaborators watched closely, understanding that public feuds have the power to shift careers, streaming numbers, and cultural relevance. Drake's rant wasn't just entertainment. It was a strategic move with potential ripple effects. The careful observation of timing, phrasing, and delivery underscored the fact that in hip-hop, words are more than expression. They are power. Every comment, every verse, and every post can redefine alliances and spark new conflicts. Drake's relationship with Kendrick has always been layered. Both artists have achieved immense success and influence, yet their paths have intersected in ways that foster competition, admiration, and sometimes tension. The rant brought these dynamics to the surface in a very public way, highlighting the complexities of rivalry in an industry where respect and recognition are currency. Similarly, the references to Clipse reminded the world that legacy acts still carry influence, and that even subtle disses can ripple through the music community, reigniting debates about credibility, artistry, and historical significance. At the core of this drama is perception. Drake's fans believe in his dominance, his skill, and his ability to command attention, while skeptics question whether his tactics cross the line between genius and manipulation. The alleged use of bots, whether true or false, has already changed the conversation, prompting reflection on authenticity, the role of social media, and how influence is measured in the modern music era. Every view, like, and share has become part of the narrative, shaping public opinion and amplifying tension. By the end of Part 1, it was clear that this feud was not a simple clash of egos. It was a multi-layered battle of influence, respect, and reputation. Drake's rant had sent shockwaves, questioning alliances, testing loyalties, and challenging his peers to respond. The world was now watching closely, and the question on everyone's mind was the same. How would Kendrick and Clipse react, and what would this mean for the next chapter of hip-hop drama? The aftermath of Drake's rant was immediate and chaotic. Within hours, social media exploded with clips, screenshots, and commentary dissecting every word he had said. Fans across the globe were scrambling to decode hidden meanings, trying to determine whether his lines were veiled references or outright disses. But beyond the speculation, there was a tangible tension that could be felt in the streets, studios, and boardrooms of the music industry. Everyone understood that Drake's words carried power, and that in the world of hip-hop, a statement like this rarely went unanswered. Kendrick Lamar, known for his calculated responses and lyrical precision, suddenly became the center of speculation. Analysts and fans alike wondered whether he would respond publicly, in a song, or perhaps with a subtle nod in an upcoming project. Every move he made was now being scrutinized, as the stakes of this feud grew higher with each passing moment. For Drake, the rant was a calculated risk. He had built his career not only on his music but on his ability to dominate narratives, to control public perception, and to stay relevant in the ever-shifting landscape of hip-hop. This public outburst, while raw and passionate, also served a strategic purpose. By directly calling out Kendrick and Clipse, he ensured that the spotlight remained firmly on him, that conversation would revolve around his words, and that the public would engage in debates that fueled his visibility. But the tension was real. Such direct confrontations carried dangers. In the past, feuds had escalated beyond music, turning heated disputes into personal conflicts that could affect careers, relationships, and reputations. Meanwhile, whispers about bot usage added another layer of intrigue. Several social media accounts appeared to have artificially inflated views and engagement on Drake's posts, sparking a debate over authenticity. Critics argue that manipulating numbers to bolster hype undermined credibility, while supporters dismissed it as a savvy use of modern technology. Whether real or rumored, the idea that Drake might be amplifying his reach artificially only intensified the controversy. It created a sense of uncertainty around the entire event, as fans wondered which parts of the online frenzy were genuine and which were orchestrated. In a culture where perception is everything, this uncertainty worked in Drake's favor, keeping the discussion alive and the attention firmly on him. Kendrick Lamar, however, was not one to be rushed or pushed into a response. Known for his patience and strategic thinking, he appeared to observe the situation quietly, letting the public speculation build tension while he considered his next move. Clipse, too, had its own weight in the conversation, as the duo's influence in hip-hop history could not be ignored. Any response from them could reignite debates about legacy, credibility, and power in the music industry. The anticipation surrounding who would respond first, how they would respond, and what medium they would choose became almost a story within the story, capturing the attention of fans, critics, and insiders alike. As the days went by, analysts began piecing together a broader picture. Drake's words, tone, and choice of platform suggested not just a personal grievance but a calculated assertion of dominance. He was reminding the world of his influence, his reach, and his ability to control the narrative even when confronting the biggest names in the game. At the same time, the alleged bot activity hinted at a modern, digital layer to the feud, showing how technology can be used to amplify influence, sway public opinion, and maintain relevance in an era where online engagement is a form of currency. Tension continued to mount as the story spread beyond hip-hop circles, drawing attention from mainstream media outlets, celebrities, and casual fans. The feud had become more than a personal conflict. It was a cultural moment, a snapshot of the evolving dynamics of fame, influence, and competition. Every comment, every clip, and every rumor added fuel to the fire, creating a pressure cooker environment where even minor moves could trigger massive reactions. The eyes of the industry were on Drake, Kendrick, and Clipse, all waiting to see how this confrontation would evolve and who would emerge with the upper hand. By the end of Part 2, the stakes had grown higher than ever. Drake's rant had done exactly what he intended. It had grabbed the world's attention, sparked debate, and forced everyone to consider the implications of his words. The question now was no longer whether there was tension, it was how far it would go, what moves each artist would make next, and what the outcome would mean for the balance of power in hip-hop. Fans waited with bated breath, knowing that the next response could change everything. The fallout from Drake's explosive rant continued to reverberate across the music world, and every passing hour intensified the drama. Industry insiders were quietly whispering about the weight of the allegations, the subtle digs, and the power plays embedded in his words. Fans were combing through every lyric, every gesture, and every post, looking for hidden meanings and potential sparks that could ignite the next chapter of this escalating feud. The tension between Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and Clipse had become more than a clash of personalities. It had transformed into a high-stakes game of strategy, influence, and dominance, where every move was scrutinized and every action could carry consequences that extended far beyond the music itself. Drake, in the midst of the frenzy, seemed unshaken. He continued to release content, his energy unrelenting, each post building upon the last. His strategy was subtle but unmistakable. He wanted to maintain the spotlight, dominate the conversation, and ensure that every fan, critic, and rival felt the pressure. The rant was no longer just words. It was a statement of intent, a clear demonstration that he would not be underestimated. He reminded the world why he had remained relevant for so long, why his influence was unmatched, and why he could challenge even the most respected figures in hip-hop without fear of consequence. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar remained a figure of calculated silence. Known for his measured approach and meticulous planning, he had yet to respond publicly. Every potential move was being analyzed by fans and media, from subtle social media posts to lyrical references in recent tracks. Some speculated that Kendrick was crafting a response that would hit harder than Drake's initial rant, choosing precision over reaction. This careful approach highlighted the contrast between the two artists, one using the immediacy of digital platforms to assert dominance, the other relying on craft, timing, and strategy to maintain authority. The Clipse factor added another layer of complexity. As veterans of the hip-hop scene, the duo's presence and influence could not be overlooked. Any involvement from Clipse, whether direct or indirect, had the potential to sway public perception and shift the narrative in unexpected ways. Their history, credibility, and connection to the culture meant that they were not just passive observers. They were potential catalysts capable of reigniting the feud or redirecting attention entirely. For Drake, mentioning Clipse was a calculated move, one designed to signal his awareness of the broader legacy and to assert dominance over not just contemporaries but icons whose influence spanned generations. The alleged bot usage continued to shadow the story. Reports and speculation about inflated engagement added intrigue, raising questions about authenticity, influence, and strategy. Critics argued that such tactics could backfire, suggesting that any artificial amplification might undermine credibility or provoke backlash. Supporters, however, framed it as modern strategy, an innovative way to amplify reach and maintain relevance in an era dominated by digital metrics. Whether true or not, the narrative surrounding bots elevated the drama, transforming what might have been a simple clash of egos into a larger story about power, perception, and control in the digital age. Fans were split across every platform. Some celebrated Drake's boldness, seeing the rant as proof of his dominance, creativity, and fearlessness. Others criticized him, arguing that public conflicts of this magnitude could escalate into personal disputes, damage relationships, or tarnish legacies. Online debates became heated, with supporters and skeptics dissecting lyrics, analyzing past collaborations, and revisiting interviews in search of context. Every statement, every nuance, and every minor gesture became fodder for discussion, feeding the story's momentum and ensuring that it remained in the public consciousness. The tension reached beyond music circles. Media outlets, cultural commentators, and celebrities weighed in, each offering perspectives, predictions, and opinions. The story had transformed into a cultural moment, illustrating the power of influence in hip-hop and highlighting the fine line between artistic expression and public conflict. Drake's rant had sparked a chain reaction that no one could ignore. Fans were engaged, the industry was alert, and the spotlight on Kendrick and Clipse had intensified dramatically. By the end of Part 3, the narrative had grown more complicated, layered, and high stakes. Drake had successfully dominated the initial conversation, but the unanswered questions remained. Would Kendrick respond? Would Clipse intervene? And how far would this feud escalate before the next chapter of public drama unfolded? The stage was set for moves, countermoves, and revelations that could reshape alliances, influence public perception, and redefine the dynamics of hip-hop's power structure. The tension surrounding Drake's rant had reached a fever pitch, and the streets, studios, and social media feeds were all buzzing with speculation. Fans dissected every word he had said, every post he had shared, and every subtle gesture he had made in the days following the rant. The narrative had expanded beyond a simple clash of artists into a complex web of rivalry, strategy, and public perception. Drake had thrown down the gauntlet, and the entire hip-hop world was waiting to see who would pick it up. Kendrick Lamar, known for his careful approach, and Clipse, with their long-standing reputation for precision and influence, suddenly became the focal point of every conversation, every post, and every speculation thread. Inside Kendrick Lamar's camp, the atmosphere was one of cautious deliberation. Sources close to him described long discussions about whether to respond publicly, lyrically, or through more subtle channels. Every word mattered. Every action had to be weighed carefully, because Kendrick's reputation had always been built on deliberate timing and lyrical precision. A misstep could inflame tensions unnecessarily, yet silence could also be interpreted as weakness. The decision was a delicate balancing act, and one that required consideration of not only the immediate feud but also the broader implications for his career and legacy. Drake, meanwhile, was unrelenting. His posts, stories, and subtle references continued to keep the conversation alive, ensuring that his name dominated the cultural narrative. Each post was crafted to maintain tension, provoke speculation, and reinforce his dominance in the feud. Even as whispers about possible bot usage circulated, he seemed unfazed, letting the controversy feed the frenzy while maintaining a calculated sense of control. The strategy was clear: remain in the spotlight, control the narrative, and force responses from those he had targeted. Every day without a response from Kendrick or Clipse only amplified the drama, making Drake appear not just bold, but untouchable in his ability to dominate attention. The Clipse factor added yet another layer of intrigue. As industry veterans with decades of experience and influence, their reactions carried significant weight. Even subtle hints from them could shift the narrative, influencing fans' perceptions of credibility, loyalty, and artistry. The duo's connection to the broader hip-hop culture meant that any engagement, whether direct or implied, would have ripple effects far beyond this single feud. Drake's mention of them was more than a casual jab. It was a calculated move, a reminder that he was aware of legacy, respect, and the delicate hierarchy that governs hip-hop influence. As the story spread, media outlets, commentators, and fans fueled the fire. Every subtle reference, every potential shot, and every rumored tactic became part of the conversation. Analysts debated whether Drake's approach was genius or reckless, whether Kendrick would counter with lyrical finesse or public silence, and whether Clipse would remain uninvolved or choose to assert their influence. The complexity of the situation demonstrated how high the stakes were, not just for Drake, Kendrick, and Clipse, but for the entire perception of influence, control, and reputation within the industry. The alleged use of bots continued to stir conversation. Whether true or not, the narrative that Drake might be amplifying his own hype added a modern, digital layer to the feud. It became less about the rant itself and more about strategy, perception, and control. Fans debated the ethics of digital amplification, while others praised it as savvy marketing. In either case, the focus remained squarely on Drake, forcing his rivals and observers alike to consider the implications of influence in an era dominated by social media metrics, algorithms, and online attention. Amid the digital chaos, tension in the streets and studios also grew. Industry insiders speculated on potential collaborations, subtle disses in upcoming tracks, and behind-the-scenes meetings designed to measure reactions and craft responses. Hip-hop had always thrived on competition, but this feud now demonstrated how intricately strategy, image, and influence were interwoven. Every tweet, every lyric, and every nod mattered, turning the feud into a high-stakes game where missteps could have lasting consequences. By the end of Part 4, the narrative had reached a critical point. Drake had successfully forced the spotlight onto himself, intensified the pressure on Kendrick and Clipse, and dominated the conversation across platforms and communities. Yet the stage remained set for an explosive response. Fans were on edge, industry insiders were watching every move, and the artists themselves were calculating the next step. The tension was unbearable, and the anticipation for the next chapter had never been higher. One question lingered in every mind: who would move first, and how would this next act redefine the landscape of this feud? The tension surrounding Drake's rant had reached a boiling point, and the anticipation of a response from Kendrick, Lamar, and Clipse had fans across the globe on edge. Weeks of speculation, analysis, and debate had created an almost electric atmosphere in the hip-hop world. Every lyric, every post, and every subtle move was being scrutinized. Drake had successfully forced the spotlight onto himself, dominating the conversation and keeping everyone guessing about how Kendrick and Clipse would respond. The stakes were higher than ever. This was no longer just a personal conflict, but a cultural moment that could redefine influence, loyalty, and reputation in hip-hop. Kendrick Lamar finally made his move, though it was far from overt. In a subtle Instagram story, he posted a lyric from an unreleased track, seemingly hinting at resilience, awareness, and patience in the face of provocation. Fans immediately dissected every word, looking for connections to Drake's rant. Every pause, every emphasis, and every line became a point of discussion. Analysts noted the contrast in approach. While Drake had confronted his rivals directly and publicly, Kendrick chose a nuanced, layered response that showcased strategic restraint. His method reflected his legacy as a master of timing, showing the world that power could be asserted without shouting, that dominance could be claimed through precision rather than volume. Clipse, on the other hand, opted for silence. Their absence in the public sphere became its own statement. The duo's influence in hip-hop history meant that any comment could carry immense weight, but their decision to stay out of the direct feud created intrigue. Fans speculated whether this was a deliberate choice to avoid being dragged into the conflict or a calculated method of letting Drake's energy work against him. In either case, their legacy remained intact, their silence amplifying the drama while allowing them to maintain control over their narrative. It was a reminder that in hip-hop, sometimes the most powerful statement is made not with words, but with restraint. Meanwhile, the online debate continued to rage. Social media exploded with reactions to Kendrick's subtle response, dissecting every syllable and drawing comparisons to Drake's previous posts. The discussion about bot usage intensified, with some fans claiming that artificial engagement had inflated the drama, while others argued that it was a modern-day tactic that reflected the realities of digital culture. The combination of public rant, strategic silence, and alleged manipulation created a narrative that was multifaceted and layered. Every participant in the conversation had to consider not only the music but also the optics, the strategy, and the potential consequences of their reactions. Drake, observing Kendrick's subtle response and Clipse's silence, adapted quickly. He released a series of social media posts that combined assertive commentary with playful jabs, maintaining the momentum and keeping his audience engaged. His strategy was clear: dominate attention, control the narrative, and force reactions while maintaining the perception of unshakable confidence. Fans dissected these posts, sharing theories, memes, and predictions, each interaction fueling the ongoing frenzy. By leveraging his platform effectively, Drake had turned what could have been a simple clash into a spectacle, demonstrating an understanding of modern fame, social influence, and the power of engagement in shaping public perception. The ripple effects of this feud extended beyond music. Brand deals, streaming numbers, and public appearances were suddenly scrutinized for hidden messages or strategic positioning. Media outlets analyzed every angle, creating articles, interviews, and breakdowns that fueled discussion across the cultural landscape. The feud was no longer isolated to the music industry. It had become a cultural phenomenon, highlighting the interplay between artistry, perception, and influence in the digital age. Every move by Drake, Kendrick, or Clipse carried consequences that reached far beyond the immediate parties involved. By the time the dust settled, it was clear that this confrontation had reshaped the narrative of modern hip-hop feuds. Drake had asserted dominance with raw energy and direct confrontation. Kendrick had responded with strategic subtlety, and Clipse had maintained control through silence. The lessons were clear. In the current era, influence is measured not just by lyrical skill, but by strategy, timing, and mastery of perception. Public feuds have become games of chess, where every post, every lyric, and every interaction can alter the balance of power. In the end, the Drake versus Kendrick and Clipse saga was more than a clash of personalities. It was a demonstration of modern hip-hop strategy, digital influence, and the power of narrative. Fans, analysts, and industry insiders alike had witnessed a masterclass in control, tension, and timing. Drake's energy had forced the conversation, Kendrick's precision had commanded respect, and Clipse's restraint had preserved legacy. Together, their actions defined a new chapter in the culture, one where feuds are no longer just about words, but about strategy, perception, and the intricate dance of modern influence in music. This is one of the biggest moments in hip-hop right now, and you don't want to miss a single detail. Drake just dropped a rant that caught Kendrick, Lamar, and Clipse in the crosshairs, sparking a feud that's taking the internet by storm. The subtle responses, the cryptic posts, and the alleged bot usage have fans debating, analyzing, and predicting what comes next. This isn't just music drama. It's a full-blown cultural moment that could change the game. Smash that like button if you're following this saga, and make sure to subscribe so you get all the updates as the story unfolds. Hit the notification bell so you're first to see every reaction, every lyric, and every shocking twist. Drop a comment below. Who do you think has the upper hand? And share this video with every hip-hop fan you know, because this feud is far from over, and the next move could shake the music world.